Welcome back to Guess What Day It Is. Today is Turntable Day.
One of the outtakes.
And let's hammer. It's phone day. Can't get my punch out. Turntable Day. Did I not say nerd alert? So we've got a nice turntable that we're gonna get cleaned up and set up for a good friend of mine. This is a MCS 6601. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit, check it out, clean it up, make sure it works fine, and hopefully deliver it, make my buddy happy. So this is essentially a Technics built turntable. It was made for JC Penney's. MCS stands for Modular Component System. 6601. I think there was a 6602, which I think was a silver model. There's really not a lot of these out there. I really had a hard time finding out some information on it. I did some general searching. I don't see an exact model in the Techniques line that matches up with this one. So I do have a Techniques SL3200, which you guys have probably seen on the channel too. Functionality wise, it's very similar to that. This is a semi-auto turntable, which means that it will automatically return the tone arm back to its base once it gets to the center of the record. So we're going to check it out and see if functionality wise it's doing okay. So let's get her plugged in. These function very similarly to most. Don't make fun of my warped test record there, but so to basically get it started, lift up the Q lever, we slide it over and it should power on like so. That's interesting. Let's try that again. Let's get it slid over. Okay. Looks like we're doing okay. Let's hit the stop function. I'm not sure exactly why I did the stop function on its own, but we'll kind of tear into that. Okay. I'm going to put it close to the end of the record and see if it automatically returns. Oops. Just looking at the speed control. See if it's holding speed. It's the bottom one, which is kind of hard to see. It's doing all right. It's holding pretty steady. I'll move the adjustment. Whew. I think we've got a dirty pot there, so yeah, that's not a problem. Let's see if it returns. There we go. Just look at the overall condition. There's some scratching up front. Not too bad. I did clean it a little bit before taking the video. So it's got a typical Technics tone arm. I'm not an audiophile or an expert on turntables, but it's a pretty decent setup. So we've got a Shure 2215 cartridge with a 2225 stylus. We're going to end up replacing the stylus, so it's fresh and ready to go. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to try 45 and see what we got there. Okay. Yeah, that pot is. It's doing all kinds of funny stuff. Let's kind of crank it a little bit. What I'm doing is just kind of rolling it back and forth. It does take a little bit to get it dialed. See if I'm going the right way. It's kind of hard to tell with as much as it's jumping. There we go, we're getting there. So we're going to take that apart and we're going to clean that. So I'd be more concerned if it wasn't dead on 33. So we'll just verify that again. I switched it back. Let's see how it settles. So I'm not overly concerned about the motor because it's dead on 33. So I think we're doing okay. Let's see if we can see that there. All right. I will show you the minty dust cover too. So it's got a typical Technics hinges, and these are in great shape. Just really surprising. These tend to break quite a bit. It's got a unique medallion in the center for MCS. So I bet you this would probably fit many other Technics turntables, but that's kind of the MCS in the center would drive me nuts. So there you have it. It's in great shape, no cracks. We'll try to polish it up a little bit. There are, typical scratches, but all in all, not too bad. Okay, there's the cartridge. One difference, it doesn't have the typical aluminum head shell that you would see on most Technics. Well, not too bad. I mean, I trying to do some research on what the MSRP would have been for this compared to the comparable Technics. Build quality seems to be similar. It does seem a little more plasticky when it comes to the base for the tone arm and all that, but it's not bad. One of the cool things about this one is it being black. It's kind of you have to get a European model of the Technics stuff in order to get something black. So it's different, and I like that. All right, let's dive into it. The mat is not oily. That's pretty fantastic. I did clean some of this up already, and I did lube the shaft already. So, but we'll pull the bladder off anyway. This is a typical direct drive motor from Technics. It is Technics. I'm not going to get into that controversy, but it is Techniques. So set this stuff aside. All right. Oh. Is that a head shell screw? There's two of them. We'll put that over on the side. Okay, what am I going to use to prop that up? And one thing is very sure, this base is not as thick as the SL 3200. That, just from a sound dampening standpoint, just had a massive base to it. That's really a lot of the design that goes into a turntable, is minimizing vibrations. So I would imagine price range, this would be more of a mid-tier to low-tier versus the SL3200, which would be probably higher mid-tier. Still similar components. All the feet look really good. It's got good felt on them. Good springiness. One thing I've noticed is the feet on Technics turntables seem to be a little more stable than some of the other manufacturers. So that's definitely a good thing. So get that out there. Yeah, this is about a third of the weight of the other one. It's a little more sparse underneath too. That's very interesting. Like I said, feel free to go back into my video on the SL3200 to see the difference in there. But from a serviceability standpoint, this thing is pretty simple. It's easy to get to everything to make sure everything's lubed up and everything. We're going to clean all the contacts and the switches. We're going to apply some grease and just make sure everything is good to go. And we're going to throw this back together. Just look at the pots for this, the speed. You can tell that this particular board could have been used for a couple different applications. It's got a provision for another switch for the speed selector, which would probably be a very similar switch to that one, which is just directly mounted. So once again, you know, all these manufacturers made lots of different models. And in this particular case, being a kind of an OEM manufacturer for JC Penney's, they could just use stuff that was off the shelf. There are two different size bolts, which I did not notice as I was disassembling. So if that happens, if you notice you have screws a different length, before you start screwing stuff together, just put all the screws where you think they should go. And if you have different depths, it should be pretty apparent. Oop, like right there. See how that screw is definitely too long, and the long screw is definitely too short for there. So just a little tip, if you do get into a jam and you don't really notice what screw came out of where, put them all where you think they belong first before you start screwing anything down, and it should become pretty clear on that. So we're going to go ahead and get this all buttoned up. The pots are cleaned. Everything is lubed. So it should be ready to go. We're going to flip it over here in just a second and definitely test the speeds on it. So all right. We did lube the spindle already. All right, let's get our knobs back on. Already much smoother. Alrighty. There we go. I was like, it shouldn't be on right now. I did move the mechanism quite a bit on the inside, so it's probably why it turned on its own. I'm going to put the head shell back in too. That works much better. All right, let's check the speed. We'll start out on 33. Oh man, so much better. It's not jumping. Huh. It's amazing how much easier it is to set it up when everything works the way it should. All right, switch to 45. Oh yeah, that's much better. No jumping. Of course, I got the settings cranked, so it takes a minute to get it dialed in, but it is steady. Very nice. Okay. That's my main concern on that one. All right, we're gonna check the auto return. All the way in. perfect. Okay, gonna set the tracking. Got a nice upgraded protractor instead of using the piece of paper. Obviously, if you don't do this often, you know, you can definitely get away with the paper. But you might as well man, that looks pretty dang good. Okay. Gonna take that as good. Ooh, that's a tight fit in there. That's good. Okay. I'm gonna check the azimuth, whether or not that cartridge is, let's get it more straight there. All right. It is ever so slightly off. You see what I'm doing is lining the grid that's in the center of this acrylic block and seeing how it aligns with the head shell and with the stylus and the cartridge. It looks pretty dead on. I don't think I'm going to do any adjustments on that. I think we're good to go. Okay, I'm going to set the counterweight. So I got my scale. You probably can't see it with the glare. We're going to put the stylus right there. Okay, the spec is 1.5 to 3 grams, and I don't know if you can read that, but it says 3.5 grams, so we are way off. So take that off. Let's try that. Nope. Still the same. Getting there. 2.36. .9, just almost there. .97. That's where we're going to leave it. All right. Now, as a rule of thumb, you set the anti-skating setting to basically the same. So you got that at 2. I'm going to move the dial to 2 just so that everything's accurate. So there we go. Okay, last thing we're going to do is get this nice dust cover cleaned up. So I've got Novus brand plastic cleaning system, I guess you want to call it. So we've got a heavy scratch remover, fine scratch remover, and then the final clean and shine. So it works well. You don't need to have a buffer. Sometimes it does help. Let me get some of that dirt off there. I know a lot of people will use a drill with a buffing flitz ball or something like that on it. We're just going to use, for this application, for the heavy scratch remover, we're just going to use the automotive wax pad, so nothing weird or special. It does have some stuff on it, which that is not good. So we're going to use the clean side on that. Make sure this stuff is good and shaken, whatever. Try to get the dried product out. Okay. Okay. So basically we're just gonna work it in. This deep scratch is probably not gonna get touched by it, but it will do a pretty good job on the other stuff here, so. It's really pretty amazing how good this dust cover is. This is also from my dad's collection. I think a lot of the stuff that he has is probably from garage sales, estate sales, all that kind of stuff. I know my Pioneer receiver, the SX727, I'm pretty sure that was a garage sale find. The Technics turntable I have, that was hooked up to a system, so that one might be something that he already had. I've got a Marantz 6300 that you'll be seeing here sometime in the near future. That one was also hooked up to a system. So I think this one was in his stash just from his garage sale forays. He always told me that this stuff was going to be my inheritance and how it's going to be worth a lot of money. A lot of this stuff in the 90s, when I was kind of getting into stereo equipment and car stereos and stuff like that, I didn't really think it was going to be that big of a deal. At that point, CDs were taking a pretty good hold, so I was like, yeah, whatever, Dad. Now this stuff is just crazy expensive. I do appreciate, obviously, the build quality and everything that goes into these. Especially with the resurgence of vinyl, which I didn't think was going to be as big as it is. Once again, my music collection is mostly CDs. Although I do appreciate vinyl. especially after putting my turntable through its paces. I definitely see the appeal. I know there's the experience of media, like buying the media, looking at the liner notes, listening to the whole album, which is not something we do very much nowadays. But he was right. This stuff is really starting to gain some value to it. Okay. Now that that's hazed up, take a microfiber cloth. Come back through. It's definitely better. It's not perfect. Once again, listen. This thing has been old enough to drink for a very long time. It's probably just about as old as I am. I would say this is probably a late 70s piece. Oh yeah. I'm already happy with the improvement there. It looks pretty good. Some of these scratches are pretty deep. I don't think we're going for perfection here, but we're just making it nice. We're making it clean. I may end up buying one of those Flitz balls here at some point. I do have buffing pads that go on my my bench grinder, but it's a little tough to do on something of this size. So that's where that having the maneuverability of that drill mounted flex ball is pretty handy. YouTube channel that I enjoy is Skylabs, and that's something that they use when they recondition these. It's also where I learned about there is a repair kit for the hinges on these particular Technics style dust covers. They basically require you to use a die grinder or a Dremel tool to cut off the remainder of the... I know you guys are hearing the squeaky, squeaky, squeaky as I do this. This is probably a wonderful video. But there's a kit that you can actually replace the hinges. Like I was saying, you actually buzz the rest of this off, and then you can drill probably 2 holes into the actual dust cover, and then there's metal hinges that you use to mount on that, so works pretty good. So all right, that's the first round. I do need to clean the inside. The inside is actually kind of dirty too, so it already looks significantly better. All right. Oops. I'm going to get a different pad because there's some abrasive stuff in there for the second part of the treatment. Let's sit through it. Once again, must be shaken. Same type of application with this one. Wow. Oh man, I'm not sure if you can tell, but that looks real nice. That's a beaut. You can see my ugly mug in there. How about that? All right, so last up, we're gonna finish off with the clean, shine, and protect. I'm actually gonna clean the inside of it with this as well. Get a nice new microfiber cloth. So just a nice final cleaning. It does give it a little bit of a sheen, slickness to it, which will probably protect the acrylic a little bit. Look at that. Just fantastic. You know, a little effort can go a long way when it comes to bringing this stuff back to life. I think this was a well-maintained piece of equipment, so that definitely helps. But this picture, you know, somebody buying this was probably back in the day, probably a $200 turntable, and adjusted for inflation, that's a pretty significant amount of money in the 70s. So I mean, it's kind of weird to think, you know, this basically was the prized possession of somebody. It ended up in a garage sale because the person moved on to a different type of media, or who knows. But this was somebody's pride and joy. Somebody saved some of their hard-earned money, and just wonder all the different records that have been played on this, or if that person was a classical person. What's this, a Led Zeppelin person? Maybe some Ozzy Osbourne. Maybe it was disco. Ugh. But hey, you know what? I bet it sounded awfully good. Not the music itself, but the quality of the reproduction was probably pretty good. Okay, well, look at that. That is stunning. We even have the rubber inserts that feel pretty nice and soft in there. Oops, looks like I got some on there. So from the inside. Let's work on that a little bit. Wow. That's not really coming off there. All right. That's bugging me. Let's get some rubbing alcohol on that. It's kind of sticky, whatever it is. Now, rubbing alcohol is okay to use on acrylic. Denatured alcohol is not. Oh yeah, that's better. Two totally different things when it comes to cleaning plastics. Beautiful. All right, she's all done. Turned out pretty good. Everything is set. I do have a new cartridge coming. Once that gets in, we're going to verify all the settings, make sure that's good. What a nice looking turntable. Cover turned out great. Not perfect, but pretty dang snazzy. There you have it. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit subscribe, hit that like button, and we'll see you next time on Guess What Day It Is.